Hey guys, what's up? Oh really, what's up? Now, anyway, back out here to Chrysler again, and I'm going to address these brakes. At least start to. I've got to go through the whole brakes on this car as well as I did the other one, but in the meantime, I'm having problems with this brake booster, I think. I know it's doing something weird. It's actually, when you put the brakes on, it hisses inside and it makes the engine run rough. So that's a vacuum leak. Now the brake pedal's low, but I don't think it's supposed to be doing that. So I'm gonna have to get this thing off here and see what's going on with it. So I've already got one of these. I have it in the house and have it apart, and I'm gonna see if I can maybe make one good one out of two. Stay tuned. So I'm in the house now, and this is the one I'm probably gonna, I don't know if I use this one or I use the other one. I've got them both in here, but they're both Middle and Ross boosters, and they're not difficult to take apart. They've got just the two halves. By the way, I refer to this book as what guides me. That's the Mopar service manual. Two halves of it, and you simply undo this big band that keeps them together. You want to mark the halves so that you line them back up the right way. Put a scribe mark on it, and push this thing comes through the front cover of it, and get that pushed inward so it doesn't try to pull it out. And this actually sits over this. It's got a little clamp. Take off like that, so on and so forth. And so this one, I don't know if it worked or not, but what was wrong with it was that I didn't use it initially, is that it was broken. It's got a piece right here that sits in there like this. It's like a retainer, and if I can find my push rod that goes in there. Where is that? Where did I do that push rod? You have a push rod. It goes from the front. Hang on. Oh, there it is. I just saw it. So this thing comes in from, this is the part that sticks out like over there, and it's supposed to be retained in here solidly, but this one is missing. It's got a little plastic collar that's supposed to be right there. It's missing, and it ripped out the center right there. So it's got some problems, but it looks like the diaphragm was good on it. This is another reman, by the way. And that's all there is to a brake booster. It's just a big plate with a diaphragm made onto it. So that's that. I'll probably do more of a, I don't know, maybe not. I don't get much interest in stuff like this. But anyway, I was going to say I'll do a video about the rebuild, but I don't think so. So we'll see. This part right here, found out something when I took this is the one that was on the car just now. Saw that. So I took this thing off, which is not fun, but I got this thing off, and the master cylinder sits here. The push rod to the master cylinder. See how this one's in there solid, this push rod? That's the way it's supposed to be. That one's broken, so I couldn't use that one. But I discovered something. This is the it's called the booster filter retainer, and it goes here like this. Some version of that fits over that. I just took that off, actually saw it on there. But anyway, what it is that's the side goes towards the booster, and then this thing has got a little filter in it like this. It's made in there like that, sits in there, and it's supposed to have a plastic cover on it, which I don't have the cover. I don't know where the cover's at. And as a matter of fact, this thing was, I can tell you where it wasn't. It wasn't on there. So I had put the master cylinder and everything back together with it, and had forgot to put this in there because I didn't know what it was. So it's supposed to be in there. It was not. I don't know if that contributed to anything. I don't think it did, except that it put the booster, the master cylinder closer to the booster than it's supposed to be. And probably if it had any brakes on it at all, to speak of, I would have hung the brakes up possibly. But anyway, this thing was actually, I'll tell you where it was on the shop floor out there. I kicked it around a couple times. I saw it, and I didn't know what you know, it's one of those things that I just almost knew what it was, but I couldn't remember. But that's what it is, and it came off one of these cars, and I think it came off of that one because it's, you see how that's got an imprint right there, and it matches the imprint back here. So I think this is the deal that came off the 68. This is the 68's. Pretty sure that's the 68's booster, I think, and doesn't matter. But anyway, anyhow, but it's missing the cover, so I gotta see if I can get a cover from somebody off the internet. You can't get them new anymore. They don't make them. They did. I don't think they do now, but I got stuff to make the gasket at least. I think I got material just large enough to make a gasket out of, so I'm not worried about that. And all that's for is just basically, when this thing pulls air in and out from movement, it's supposed to just kind of help it filter out impurities. So I'll go looking for a cover, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this booster apart also, like I did that one, and I'm going to examine the parts in it and see if it's got a bad seal or it's got a bad diaphragm or what's wrong with it, and take the best parts out of the two since they're the same thing generally. Take them out and put them all back together as one booster, so we should be fine. And I'm going to see what I can do. I think well, the one on the card is a little bit better than this one, but this has got this ugly incorrect check valve on it. It's got all these ports on it that's for different things that use vacuum, and that car doesn't have anything that uses vacuum off the power brake booster line. So it's got the wrong check valve on it already. It's got one that goes in like this, and it's got a little port that's capped over here. That's not right. It's supposed to have a straight in one that just goes straight in, and I've yet to find one. So anyway, so I might go ahead and just insert a disassembly video to this, but you know, it's not gonna, I don't know about that. I'm just kind of tossing around what I'm gonna do, because it's not going to be complete, because I'm just going to fix the one that needs fixed and put it back together, because that's all I've got to do. I don't have to take the thing all the way apart, so somebody's probably going to for sure say, well, you didn't show us all of it. So we'll see. I think I'm just going to do this video as a repairing my brake booster. And you may ask to yourself, why didn't I just buy another one, or why didn't I just send it off someplace to have it repaired? Well, because I don't want to spend the money to do that when I got two boosters I think I can fix. One at least. And you know, I like to say this, they say I should send it off and have such and such somewhere across the country to rebuild it, but they are not paying for it. Because those boosters to rebuild these things are like a couple $100 at least. And if you just replace it, the core on this one, I think the core on this one is $150 for the core, which I have a core, doesn't matter, but I'm not even sure these could be accepted to be rebuilt anyway, because they are remans as it is. So, you know, again, I have the service manual, which I've tried to explain to people, shows you everything you need to know about how to repair all this stuff, and people don't seem to be interested in doing that enough. But that's the part. There's the cover right there. You see the filters inside of it. That's the cover. So anyway, I'm going to just do my best to fix this thing myself here at home. I'm not going to pay the $200 plus to have Joe Schmo rebuild it. Well, the head guy, his name's Ed Strain, I think, was supposed to be real good, and I think he sold out, retired. Somebody, some larger conglomerate bought him out, of course. So anyway, that's it, guys. I'll pick back up on this here shortly, and we'll see if we can get a cover for it, and we'll take this one on apart and see what the heck's going on with it. Alright then, so I'm in the indoor climate control work area, also known as my kitchen table. Same table's been seen in a lot of these home repair videos, car repair stuff videos. And I got the TV muted because of YouTube, but this movie's on. This is the one Hollow Man, where it's got Kevin Bacon in it, and he's invisible. He's experimenting with being invisible and all that. It looks kind of ludicrous to me. But I've got these boosters in here, and I've already got the one over there as a part, and these are not hard to take apart or put back together at all. I'm going by the service manual, the factory service manual, and to get them apart, all you need is a screwdriver and a crescent wrench. But long story short, when you take these apart, first thing you're going to do is you're going to mark them, mark the front and the rear, so you have them clocked correctly if you put them back together, because otherwise your brake master cylinder may be turned the wrong way. So you'll make sure you do that, and you take the bolt out here on the bottom. It's like that. Holds this big band on there. That's the band that holds these together. And then you got that left. You got a front shell, rear shell, you got the inside guts of it. So you really can probably learn more by reading about this than me telling you about it. But this is not a rebuild video anyway. It's just going to be getting into trying to make one good booster out of two questionable boosters. And when I was looking at these earlier, I couldn't remember which was which. And the story is that how I ended up with two different versions of the same booster is that the 66 Chrysler had one on it when I got it, because it's a power brake car, and then that 68 Plymouth convertible that I ended up using as a part source also had power brakes on it, power drum brakes. So I had two of the same boosters, but I couldn't remember which was which because I had mixed and matched. I took the booster off of both of them and then swapped the master cylinder, which turned out to be the wrong one anyway, onto the 66 Chrysler to give it dual circuit brakes and all that. But when I was looking at this just now, I remember right away which one's which. This is the one off the Chrysler, because you see how rusty it is, and that's the one that one's not rusty, and this is the one it looks rough all over, and this one been out in the weather. So I picked this one to use, and I shouldn't have. But all we're gonna do now is we're gonna split the case on this thing. That one just fell right apart, but this one's rusted together, so it might give me some problems. But I'm gonna get this thing apart and we're gonna look inside of it. Yeah, buddy. Okay, well, I sure picked the wrong one to use. Look at this. That's the inside of the front shell there. And this is what it's supposed to look like. It does not. It's had moisture and water and all kinds of junk in it, and it got down in here. And this is roughly at the bottom right here, this area. And look at the diaphragm. Got a hole in it and bigger than everything, 2 holes. It's all ruined. So that's why I didn't have any power brakes. So unfortunately, this thing is not usable as is. See, it had rust all around the outside edges and everything. It was hard to get apart. So it looks to me like what maybe, now of course, like I said, it's got rust in it, so this thing is probably not even worth trying to ever repair. Let's look down in there. But because of the pitting and stuff, but because, well, the reason being is because these have to have a good seal on them. Well, I'll get my hand in the way there, but yeah, so it's ingested a whole bunch of rust. And let me set you down for a second here. If that will come out or not. Yeah, it'll come up a little bit. I know you can't see anything, just bear with me. Alright, what I want to show you here is the back of it. There's the back half. It's supposed to be a seal there, all that. And it's nasty. This is what it should look like if it's in good shape. So anyway, that one's much better, and the only thing that's wrong with this one, is the reason why I'm going into that one, is because right here, you look at this little guy in the center, this thing here, this is, what do they call this thing? It's called the, I don't know, it's got a cone, something like that, I don't remember. Cone retainer and reaction cone. All right, that thing there in the center is a cone retainer. That thing's a reaction cone, and this is the push rod goes to the master cylinder. So it's supposed to be retained in there tightly, but this one got broken out somehow. So not only is the plastic piece going off that slot right there, but this thing here is broken. The plastic's broken off of it somehow. But pick this out here and show you. So the center of that's all broken out. So they have to have that piece. So hopefully that's in there and usable. The way you get into it is very simple also. You just take your screwdriver and you come back with it and you come into this clamp right here, and you're going to spread that clamp open some and take the clamp off, and then this bellows called the bellows, just like Dr. Bellows, remember on Outer Imagini. If you're wondering what that is, I've got the horseshoe curve train cam going. Anyway, so that thing just kind of just work it off here, and all this stuff should be inside. So let's do that. We'll take a look at it. Okay, so this is what it looks like underneath that bellows, and this one of course is all put together like it's supposed to be. So I've got to read the manual and figure out how to get this thing out of here in one piece. It probably comes up through the center. It looks like it may rotate and drop out, but I'll study that. This is your rear seal, by the way, they call it. So this thing is just nasty. I can't believe that I picked this one to use. The one I used to paint and fix up is garbage. But anyway, that's kind of how it goes sometimes, most of the time. But I'm going to continue working on this, and I'll do a little update when we get ready to go back together with this thing, or find out how to get this out at the very least. Okay, different angle, different night, different work session here. So I'm back working on this power brake booster, and quite simply, here's what was wrong with one of them that I had to necessitate taking it apart. I really didn't have to take it apart as far as I did, but I did anyway. So this thing, I don't know what the deal is. They've kind of mix and match some parts in here, but I think we're good. I think we can just use either or. But this is the push rod that goes in here, and this comes through the booster itself, and it kind of sticks out and activates that, goes up against the back of the master cylinder to operate the master cylinder. So what was going on was one of these had, it looked like it had broken, but it hadn't. This one here, shorter than the other, but it's supposed to have a plastic retaining ring right here in this slot. It does not. That's missing. I don't know where you get those. They ain't gonna sell them separately probably, but this one has them, has both of them. So the book shows that style. So that's the style we're gonna use. It says 2 guides. And then if you look at the other end of it, they look just about mostly similar, except that this end on this one is a little bit worn down or whatever, but it's been adjusted out, and there might be some adjustments to that. I'll look into that, but they're mostly similar. So I thought I was going to have to take this thing apart further than I did to get that push rod out, but then I just kind of looked at this, and the book says just simply, all it says is remove that push rod assembly there. So that's what I did. I got under it with a couple big screwdrivers and just started levering it up, and it finally just popped out. So that was good. So that's going to go back down in here. Goes down here. I'll knock that back in the other way, of course. Knock that back in with my plastic hammer. Lube it with a little of this stuff. Now this is another one of these projects I had to, sorry for the TV being on over there, but the rain is coming. I had to track this down at the home improvement store, because the book says to use this silicone everywhere on here. And this one's already got, this reman has already got a bunch in here, so it's good here by the seals. I actually did take this all apart and just inspect it, but it's all good. But it actually advises you to use some around the edges of this diaphragm, so I'm going to do that. And the reman did not put any there, but the book says to. So excuse me again. So upshot of it is, I'm just going to go ahead and put this thing back together, and that one's going to be junk over there. I don't know if there's anything besides the grommet that I can use off of it. It looks like it's all junk. Now, I was originally just going to take, that was the one that had this push rod that I needed in it right here. If that makes sense. The one out of this one was the one that was missing the thing that was just flopping around in the breeze. So my original intention was I was going to take that out. That comes out, you rotate it out. It's supposed to have a special tool, but you can rotate this plastic part out from under these retainers, and it just slides out up this way. But then I got looking at that one, and that one was all nasty and rusty and had water in it, and there's you can't really see it, but there's a valve in here right like this called a plunger assembly, and that is neoprene or some kind of rubber. So goes into this control hub, which is this. I know this is throwing a lot of information out at you, but long story short is that I didn't feel comfortable that this thing would work again, so that's why I just took it upon myself to drive that thing out, pull that rod I needed out. So anyway, at this point, we put it all back together and apply the grease and use it. So there again, you know, I guess I'm kind of maybe one of these people that likes to not rebel against authority, I guess, but maybe when you have a crowd that says to do one thing, that you need to send it and rebuild it. You just need to buy a reman, you need to do this, you need to do that. When nobody says try to rebuild it or try to repair it, that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to repair it or rebuild it myself, because I think it can be done. If the book says you can do it and it looks this easy, which it is, there's nothing to these things, then I'm going to do it. So, and I was looking around, there's a place, a couple places on the internet that do these, and you know, they have nice websites, and I'm not trying to detract from their business, but you know, they have one of these, you can either just send a core in and they send you one back, or they return yours rebuilt, or they sell you the parts to rebuild your own. But the parts kit is almost as much as it takes to rebuild it, cost to rebuild it. I think it's like $155 for these parts, which all it is a bunch of seals and some clips and those little plastic guides in the diaphragm. $155 for those things. So either way, I'm not doing that. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get on with it and put this thing back together and paint it tomorrow, and hopefully put it back on the car and go on to something else. I'll show you a picture here in just a little while. It'll be a second or two for you, but it's going to be in the morning for me. I'll get this thing painted, and I'm going to paint it shiny gloss black. I know they didn't originally come that color, but I'm going to do that because the paint was $5 compared to probably $50 or more to have it CAD plated. So no. Okie dokie. Well, I'm still dealing with these brakes some more. This has been a real hassle with this car to get these brakes to work right. I'm not there yet with it. I've had a couple issues. I got the booster back on. I believe the booster is working as it should. I believe. I hope. It is not doing, well, at the very least, I'll say it's not doing what it was doing before, or the other one was doing. It was hissing and didn't have any assist and all that. So it does work and assist, and doesn't make the idle fluctuate or anything like that. It's no hissing. So that part of it, I think, is good. And I did put the right master cylinder on with it. I'll show you that. You're going to need a little light, aren't you? I'll tell you about this master cylinder. Howard there in Michigan, my YouTube friend Howard, he's, I guess, like I should be, very observant about master cylinders. And this is a master cylinder, and there's the booster, of course. I've painted it and all that. There's a master cylinder that's on there, and it's the right one. It looks, the tops of them are sort of different at different points, but it's the same. It's the same basic master cylinder. It has two equally sized fluid receptacles, or reservoirs, I guess you should say, on there. And I don't have the top loose, or I'll take it off and show you. But the main thing about it is that it's for a drum system, and that's what this is. It's got four-wheel power drum brakes on it. And the master cylinder that was on it, excuse my mess, I've been working out of town, and I just got back and haven't had time to do anything. But this is the one that was on it. And you can see that's a disc brake master cylinder, because the front reservoir is the one towards the rear back there, and it's the largest of the two. It's larger than the rear, because the theory goes that disc brakes require more fluid volume. So in essence, since there's more fluid moving back and forth in the system between the master cylinder and the front brakes, you need to have more fluid in reserve. So that was on there, and it did work. They will work on this, except that these things they're supposed to have, if they're rebuilt or built the right way, they're supposed to have residual valves in them at the outlets that keeps a little bit of pressure in the lines when you have drum brakes for whatever reason. There's an explanation for that if you care to look it up, but I'm not going to go into it now. Either way, so it's all back together and it seems to be working. I mean, I do have brakes, but I still have a low pedal, and when I took it out for a little test drive, I didn't go very far because these tires are deadly, but I took it down the driveway and then down the street a little bit down there. I noticed right away that the rear brakes were coming on before the front brakes were coming on, and that's distinctly odd to me, because the way this works is the front brakes are supposed to apply first, because they are towards the rear where the push rod comes into the master cylinder. So I don't know what that's about. It may be nothing, but what was going on was I noticed I bled these brakes, and I'll tell you right now, bleeding brakes by yourself sucks, but you got to do it. I did that the other day before I went out of town for work, and I noticed it was really wet under here on this passenger side wheel backing plate. You see it's wet now with brake fluid down there and all that. So I saw that, and I kind of, well, maybe I'm just, the bleeder's back there. I thought maybe I just lost a lot of fluid out of that, but that was not the case. Of course not. What happened was it was leaking where that line goes in right there. That line is junction. It's a brand new line of some Chinese source. I don't like Chinese stuff, but these had good reviews on them, and they were what was available. So they're called Sunsong. Anyway, so we got those Sunsong brake lines on there, and that's a new master cylinder. Pardon me, new wheel cylinders also. They did the whole thing, front to rear. So anyway, it was leaking right there because these people are so cheap. They're such cheapskates, such unbelievable, eternal cheapskates, that they will not supply me a new copper washer right there where that bolts in, because it's not, I guess it's not a tapered seat, or if it is, it doesn't matter if it is written. It's supposed to have a copper washer, and it did have one. It just, I guess it took a set, and then when I put it back together, tried to reuse it, then it didn't work. It leaked. The other one sealed, but this one didn't. So parts stores around here and anywhere else, they try to really rook you for copper washers, especially when they know that they don't supply them and you're going to have them because you're going to have this problem. So I said no. So I got looking around for a big pack of them, and a big pack of them is what I got. Went to Harbor Freight and picked up this one. Storehouse Chinese sourced copper washer assortments. I figured, you know what can they do wrong to copper washers? So I'll try it. So I think this was about $6 and something plus tax, and I could have got 20% off, I guess, if I had a coupon with me. But anyway, it had the washers I needed in there, and this is the old one. And it's funny because I guess that this may not be the, whoa, what happened, camera? Come on, boy. Come on. There you go. Hey, like that glove there. I'm not doing that on purpose. Sorry about that. But anyhow, this washer turned out to be about half the thickness of one of these new ones. As you can see, it's been on there a long time. Yada yada. These brake lines have been replaced once already. The ones on front and the rear were like brand new. But you know what they say. Just the time that you don't replace a brake line because it looks good, that's the one that blows up on you. It causes a serious accident. So anyway, I'm not doing that, and this is the long story short on this thing. So I'm about to bleed it again and see if I get some more progress on the brakes so they start feeling like I think they're supposed to. Now I've never had a big car, one of these Chryslers. It's like the C bodies with power drum brakes. I've had Mopars with disc brakes, so I kind of know how they feel, and those are always over boosted. I mean, you just touch the brakes and you're about through the windshield. So that's really probably what this one should do. So we got a ways to go on it, and I'm gonna do a little bit more. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to investigate before I get bleeding brakes again. I think I'm gonna come up here and take this master cylinder loose again and investigate my piston, the brake, what they call that thing. Anyways, where the rod comes out of the brake cylinder. But there's a rod that comes out of the booster back there, and that's what operates the master cylinder. So there's a hole in the master cylinder, and there's a rod back there, so the rod has to have just a little bit of clearance, like 30 thousandths clearance, like not much at all. So the thing is adjustable. It's got an end on it that screws in or out, so it's screwed all the way in right now, as far back that way as it'll go. So and we're going to check that and see with my crude measuring tools if I can determine whether I have too little clearance, too much clearance, or just right, and then respond accordingly. But we're getting there with it. Oh boy. We are definitely getting there with it. It just takes a little bit of trial and error. And one other note too, everybody has a different opinion on this subject, and I have mine, and I'll tell you what it is. But this car was originally a single circuit master cylinder design, which means that it has one master cylinder with one reservoir there, and it's got lines that go out and goes to what they call a junction block, which this one also has just a junction block. It's not supposed to have a proportion valve on the drum brake system, but anyway, that one just has this little T in it, and it's got two lines go to the front, one to the rear, and that's what you got. So the problem with that is it's inherently unsafe. That's why they outlawed them after 1967 or so, whenever it was, 66. This car is a 66, and the reason being is because that if something were to happen, like if you had a brake line explode or a wheel cylinder explode anywhere on this thing, front ones, rear one, metal line go away, any of those wheel cylinders, you lose pressure in the whole system. You have no redundancy. And I know somebody is going to say right away, so I've driven them for years and never had problems, and never had a wreck, never had a failure, never had this, never had that. Well, that's fine, I believe that, but there's bridges that stand for years and years and years to the day they fall down, So I'm just not taking that chance. I've had a car do that before, a lot newer car than this one. When I say newer, it was an 80 Oldsmobile, and it lost, what happened to it? It either broke a brake line or it wheel cylinder blew out in the back or something like that, but it had some sort of catastrophic failure, and the brake pedal went way down on it, but it still stopped. I mean, it would stop, and that's what's made into these. These are, I don't know if this one is just, some of them are diagonal, and I'm kind of rambling. Some of them are diagonal systems, which means that in a failure, well, let me take that back. The way that they operate is, it's like one front and one rear on the other side are on the same system, the same circuit, and vice versa. Like it's an X shape, but I think this one is strictly front and rear. So if you lose the fronts or you lose the rears, but you're not supposed to lose the front and the rear both. So, okay, that's your daily briefing on brakes. So anyway, I'll probably will kind of end this right here, and may do a startup for you and just kind of show you that the brakes, master cylinder, and all that's working. Power brake booster. So anyway, we'll see you in a second. Alright, so I did what I was threatening to do. I unbolted this master cylinder and positioned it out of the way carefully with the lines intact. And I made some measurements here. This is a very backyard, non-scientific approach. So don't laugh at me, don't judge. We're not launching a missile here. We're not sending the satellite into space here. We're just trying to adjust some brakes. So anyway, what I did was I guess something I heard on TV or a movie or something, you know, what I call the known knowns. So what I wanted to do is establish my known knowns. So I took a measuring tool, which used to be in a prior life, used to be one of these plastic nozzles from a spray can, and I repurposed it as a measuring depth tool. And all I did was I came in here, hang on a second, let me get some accent lighting going here. So I came in here with my measuring tool, and I simply, before I put the tape on it, never mind the grease, but I used this as sort of a depth indicator, and I made a little mark on it with a Sharpie, and then I got back to the desk over there. I wrapped tape around it in its approximate position. We got about 30 thousandths to 40 thousandths to kind of play around with here. So, as I said, it doesn't have to be exact necessarily. It doesn't need to be tight. So, anyway, did that. That's a known, or a known, whatever you want to call it. So the next thing I need to do is I need to try my best to establish my how far out that push rod is. And you may notice that my bracket there is broken. That promptly broke in half when I went to put this thing all together, and I haven't been able to find another one yet, so I have to deal with that when it works. When it's bolted down, it's not good. So anyway, our other known knowns, or our known, or baseline, whatever you call it, carefully measure. We have to measure, this is our flange where my fingertip is against this silver thing, this bracket. Filter housing is what it's called. It's a piece of crap's what I call it, but it's supposed to be there. So I wanted to establish how far out from this edge here, this flat edge at the back, how far out this would come. The same distance would be on these studs. So carefully transpose that over to that. It's pretty close. And did the same over here with some tape. And then I can just look at it and tell right away that this thing is way too far in. And so if we come to another precise measuring tool here, let me find that precise measuring tool. So you may be wondering to yourself, how in the world do I bleed brakes when there's nobody else here to help me? Do I call people on the phone? Do I wait people to come by? Do I put another thing on Facebook to see if I can get somebody to come help me? No. What I do is I come in here and I set up my special brake bleeding apparatus, which consists of a long part of a jack handle and then some brace here is wood bracing, whatever length I need, that holds the brake pedal down. See, and then once I have that pumped up and in position, I simply come under the car with the 30-plus-year-old tire right in my face. And under here, lay down. I have to use a socket on this. I don't know what Chrysler was thinking putting this bleeder valve so close to the spindle, but then I go. And it's the third time's a charm. I got just brake fluid out that time, so we're done. I go in there and take my stuff out and pump the brakes back up again and make sure that I don't have any leaks. So I have to do that for all 4 wheels. And I have a vacuum pump set up. I've tried that. Those things don't work for me. So, you know, I've tried it. I know it's good for, sometimes, you know, it's good to pull brake fluid through, but get it started. But otherwise, I've just found that the old-fashioned way, just pump the brake pedal and hold it and crack the bleeders, works the best for me. So anyway, I'm going to button her up, guys, and give this thing a little back and forth in the garage here and see how it does. I already can tell that I got a lot more brake pedal now, seems like. So before it was trying to load, it didn't want to come back like it should. So this adjustment, I don't know really how to tell you how to do this other than what I've shown you, except that when you get the thing too far out, you're going to realize it, because that master cylinder will not want to bolt back up easily. You feel like you're pushing on something because you're pushing on the, you know, you're trying to push that rod back and you're trying to push the cylinder. So you'll kind of have to, you know, play around with it a little bit, and you'll realize it when you got it in hopefully a good spot. So anyway, let me get my tools up. Okay, well, I think I'll call that better. Still needs a little bit of fine tuning. I'm going to have to adjust my brakes because I did not really adjust those whenever I put everything together. But I think we're good. No more hissing. Thanks for watching, guys and gals. See you later.